All right, welcome to day 5 and our 5th and final R Factor webcast tonight. Glad you've joined us. For those of you who have logged in before this week, welcome back. For those of you who are just logging in tonight for the first time, welcome this evening. Our motivation for doing these webinars is we recognize obviously the challenging time that our nation and the world is in with the coronavirus. And it's an event, it's an E, it's a very challenging time in the lives of our nation, our people, our companies, our schools, our teams. And the key is how to respond. And we want to share the R Factor toolbox with you tonight, give you an overview of it to equip you, at least initially, with the mindset and skill set that can help you navigate not only this situation, but life and work going forward. You know, before I go into the webinar tonight, I want to say thank you to all the healthcare professionals who are putting their lives at risk to man hospitals, clinics, doctors' offices, particularly those ER professionals, but everybody in healthcare, thank you so much for what you do. You are greatly, deeply appreciated. We all know you've got family at home and you are in the hospitals taking care of patients so that those of us in the communities around the country, have healthcare available to us, and we deeply appreciate what you're doing. So thank you very much for that. Let me jump into this, folks, tonight and gather around your computer. And I hope some of you have more than one person sitting there watching this. I know there's a number of folks out there. My friend Isaiah is probably on tonight with his dad. So if you're there, Isaiah, welcome. Good to see you again. And although I can't see you, but you can see me. And here's our goal. We want to equip you with the mindset and skills to pursue best version of you. And again, equip you with the mindset, way of thinking, and skill set, way of acting to pursue best version of you. And life is mindset first, skill set second. There's no question that the mind starts our action, that all human behavior begins in the mind, and then we have certain skills and we execute what we want to do behaviorally. And when we say best version of you, we mean not you compared to somebody else, but best version of you is simply you being a little bit better today than you were yesterday and better tomorrow than you were today. That's the journey to best version of you. It's not about how much talent you were or were not born with. It's not about what your IQ is. Those things, candidly, from my perspective, aren't even relevant. What's most relevant is what kind of work do you do to be better every day? I've got a saying, I'll probably say it later on tonight. Talent is a gift, discipline is a choice. Talent is a gift, discipline is a choice. Best version of you is a decision that you make. I mean, that's really what you're making the decision. Are you going to do the work to be able to be better today than you were yesterday and better tomorrow than you were today? Now, when you do that work, understand something. The work is slow, small, and daily. Write those 3 words down. If you're taking notes tonight, write those 3 words down. The work to be better every day is slow, small, daily. That's the nature. That's how growth happens. That's how skill building happens. That's how improvement happens. That's how change happens. In fact, that's how we're going to navigate this coronavirus. Slow, small, daily. Growth and achievement doesn't happen in big leaps. It doesn't happen fast, and it doesn't happen right now. It happens through the kind of work we do each and every day. And since it's slow and small, you don't always see the advancement. You don't always see the results of your effort. Don't stop putting forth effort. Make sure you're doing the work every day to pursue best version of you. And here's the reality that we got to face. Things change. That's simply the way the world works. Things always change. And we shouldn't be surprised when the world does what it does, which is change. Now, sometimes the changes are slow and not all that disruptive. They're incremental. And sometimes the changes are big and very disruptive, like what we're experiencing now. But this is the way the world works. And to expect there to be no change is naive and extreme. Reality number 2 is that resenting or resisting change only puts you at a disadvantage. There's no rationale. There's no winning in resisting or resenting change. Embrace it, understand it. And I'm going to make the point later on tonight. Yes, I get it. Change is uncomfortable, but it doesn't need to be stressful. That's all about what you choose to do. So the temptation, though, is to get stuck in ruts and routines that are comfortable but less than effective. All of us have routines, all of us have habits, and routines are fine. Routines are very good, in fact. But sometimes the routines that we have don't work, or the routines that we have used to work, but the situation has changed and the routine no longer is effective. You don't want to get stuck in the comfort zone. And just because you have a comfortable routine doesn't mean it's an effective routine. Let me say that again. I don't want you to miss this. Just because you have a comfortable routine doesn't mean it's an effective routine. And your ability to get out of your comfortable routines that are no longer working and shift to a new way of operating is critical to your success personally and professionally. So the challenge is to let go of old ways of doing things and grab a hold and embrace new ways that are uncertain, unfamiliar, and uncomfortable. That's the challenge that we all face. And right now with the coronavirus, we're being asked to let go of some old ways of doing things. And we're facing uncertainty, a great deal of unfamiliarity, and an enormous amount of discomfort. That's the challenge we're facing. And we need to embrace that. You don't have to like it, but you got to embrace it. And folks, what we're experiencing right now with the CV-19 pathogen, there will be changes as a consequence of that are not going to go away. The post-CV-19 world will be different. This is like 9/11. This is one of those things where there's going to be a new normal. I don't know what those permanent changes are going to be. I don't know what those next wave of changes are going to be as a result of this coronavirus pathogen. I just know the change is coming. I also know this. I want to build the skill to be ready for it. And I want you to do the same thing. So resistance to change, though, isn't rational, it's emotional. Resistance to change is emotional, not rational. And that means that many people fail to think through the changes they need to make. They don't use their mind, they tend to react based on emotion. So what I said a moment ago, and I'll repeat it, change is uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be stressful. Change is only as stressful as you make it. I want to give you some skills tonight, some tools tonight, some mindset and behavior skills tonight to navigate through change in a more effective way and not get wrapped up in any negative emotion with regard to change. Now, putting this in the context that we all experience is this notion of 20 square feet. So wherever you work, whatever organization that you're in, and also there's a school version of this. So school, classroom, 20 square feet, or organization, the business you're in, and then the team or department that you're in. But 20 square feet represents your sphere of ownership of the culture and performance of the organization where you work. And 20 square feet is a metaphor that expresses this reality. You have 100% control of everything that goes on inside your 20 square feet. And again, it's just a metaphor. It's not a physical space. It's not actually 20 square feet. 20 is an arbitrary number. As I've shared each time this week, I chose 20 because 10 sounded small and 30 sounded odd. So I landed on 20. Teach this in Europe. It's not even square feet. It's metric. But it's not a physical space. It's your sphere of ownership of your belief and your behavior. It's your sphere of ownership of what you choose to do or what you choose not to do. And you are the only one who makes the decision. You're the only one who decides what goes on inside your 20 square feet. And my message tonight is understand you have 20 square feet and take ownership. Own what you do and own what you don't do. And think about the fact that inside you have control and outside you have impact. And so whatever you choose to do inside your 20 square feet of the organization where you work has an impact on the people around you. Folks, you got 20 square feet of the highway when you drive. You've got 20 square feet of the airport when you fly. You've got 20 square feet of America. You've got 20 square feet of how to deal with the coronavirus. And so when we're asked to do social distancing right now, what the government and healthcare officials are asking us is, hey, own your 20 square feet and stay away from other people. Because contact with other people potentially transmits the virus. So own your behavior and wash your hands and exercise maximum hygiene and exercise physical social distancing. And that's all we're talking about here. Own your 20 square feet. Now, real quick, I get it. There are frustrating and irritating things outside your 20 square feet. But please hear me on this. Your ability to deal with the frustrating and irritating things outside your 20 square feet are completely dependent upon how you own yourself inside your 20 square feet. And I don't want you to get caught focusing on and being frustrated about things on the outside and failing to own yourself on the inside. And like I said, because we do so much work in education, same thing in a school. There's the building, there's each classroom, and then there's 20 square feet, which is every single person in the building is responsible for 20 square feet of the school, of the classroom, whether it's a kindergarten class or a 12th grade class. The classroom could be a bus, it could be the playground, it could be the cafeteria, the gym. The classroom could be a team that you're on at your school. But the point is, if you're a student listening to this, you've got 20 square feet. If you're a teacher, you're listening to this, you've got 20 square feet. If you're an administrator, you've got 20 square feet. A parent, you've got 20 square feet. A classified staff, you've got 20 square feet. And we all own our sphere of influence, and we need to maximize that. Now, inside your 20 square feet, there's a line, and your behavior is on either on one side of that line or the other. Discipline is on one side, default on the other. Above it is discipline, below that line is default. And you can see on the screen, discipline-driven behavior is characterized by intention, purpose, and skill. Intention is you're thoughtful about what you do. Purpose, you know why you do it. And skillful, you work hard to build a skill to engage in that behavior in alignment with the standards required. Thoughtful, purposeful, skillful, working hard to get better. Default behavior, on the other hand, is characterized by behavior that's impulse, autopilot, and resistance driven. And this is an interesting footnote about discipline. It doesn't mean punishment. The word discipline is actually, it comes from a Latin word that means learning. Disciplined behavior is learned. It's not given. Like I said at the outset, talent's a gift, but elite behavior, effective behavior, disciplined behavior is learned. Folks, you can be talented and on default. I've met a lot of people in my life who are very talented, but they responded, they acted, behaved on default. As a consequence, they never fulfilled their potential, or at least they're not yet fulfilling their potential. So discipline is a choice that you make. Discipline is a skill that you learn. And the key here is that discipline isn't something someone imposes on you from the outside. It's something that you choose for yourself on the inside. And if you don't choose discipline, you get default. I want you to see that. If you choose discipline or you don't. And you have the choice, by the way, not to. And unfortunately, a lot of people are reacting on default because they're not choosing to be discipline driven. And so notice default behavior is the absence of discipline. So impulse is undisciplined emotion. Autopilot is undisciplined habit. And resistance is when you resist doing the work to get better and you don't want to build a skill to meet the standard. Where life asks you to get better and you say, no, I'm fine. And that's pretty much how life works. You operate on discipline, you operate on default. And no one is typically all discipline or all default. Life is a battle between these two things. In fact, I can say this, life is characterized by three battles. Battle number one is intention versus impulse. Battle number two is purpose versus autopilot. Battle number three is building skill or resisting skill building. That's the fight we all fight. Everybody fights that fight. And the R factor is a toolbox that gives you the skills to fight and win that battle. And that's what we're all about here tonight. So when change happens, like we're experiencing right now, you can react on default or respond with discipline. And what I have to tell you, go back for a second, you look at impulse, autopilot, resistant, that's not going to work in response to change. And the more severe the change, like we're experiencing right now, the more negative the impact of reacting on default. You know, in healthcare, there's a principle, and that is first, do no harm. When a physician takes the Hippocratic Oath to become a physician, the very first thing that they commit to is first, do no harm. May I suggest the way you respond to this coronavirus challenge and all the disruptions that are happening and all the changes that will come, don't make it worse, folks. I've shared earlier this week, my mom, who passed away a couple of years ago, used to always say when I was younger, she would say, Timothy, no matter how bad a situation is, you could always make it worse, so don't. What a great lesson from my mom, and I would pass it on to you. don't make an already difficult situation worse by reacting on default. Please, please, when it comes to the coronavirus, when it comes to all this stuff going on right now, please learn to respond with discipline, because you can. And the more of us respond with discipline, the faster we're going to get through this thing. And we will get through it. And we're going to get through it better and faster if we exercise discipline. Now, here's the ultimate default attitude and the ultimate default behavior, BCD, which stands for blame, complain, defend. When things don't go the way we want, and life rarely goes the way we want, the bad thing to do, the wrong thing to do, the ineffective thing to do is blame other people, complain about things, and defend yourself. And I don't want to overplay the coronavirus. I mean, there's almost sometimes way too much news about it. But I got to say this, there's a whole lot of BCD in reaction to this coronavirus thing. So stop doing it. Stop, don't BCD. Eliminate it from your life immediately and permanently. It just, folks, it doesn't work. It doesn't improve relationships. It doesn't achieve any goals. It's an effect. Now, here's why BCD is a bad investment of your time and energy. And I made this list a couple of days ago. Here's why you shouldn't BCD. Number one, it's easy, but it always makes things worse. Talked about that already. It's easy to do, unfortunately, but it doesn't make things better. It only makes things worse. Number two, BCD takes time and energy away from real problem solving. And whenever you face a challenge, whenever you face a difficulty, whenever you face an obstacle or an impediment, whenever you face a problem, if you BCD, you're only wasting time that could have been invested in solving the problem. And I'll come back in a second about how to respond rather than BCD, but don't take time and energy away from real problem solving. Number three, BCD is habit forming. When you do it once, it's easier to do it a second time. You do it a second time, it's easier the third time. Each time you do it, it gets easier to do. It's habit forming. Now, the good news is problem solving can be habit forming as well. And that's what I'm hoping for you, is to be a solutions person, not a complaining person. Number four, BCD is contagious, meaning it's social. It's, it's odd today. We're working hard with social distancing to keep ourselves away from people so we don't spread the coronavirus. But folks, we're spreading BCD. we're spreading a mental virus of complaining, of blaming other people, of defending self. Because when people BCD, they typically don't do it by themselves. They want to recruit others into it. I call that the fellowship of discontent. I mean, I read Twitter, I'm appalled, absolutely mortified at some of the stuff people put on Twitter about the coronavirus, let alone other things. I'm mortified by what the media is doing. Don't BCD. We don't need that now. We don't need it ever. So get rid of it. Number five, it damages your credibility. When you BCD, people don't like it. They may be diplomatic. They may listen to you complain. They may listen to you blame and criticize other people, but they don't like it. And inside themselves, they're looking at you, and you are losing credibility when you blame, complain, and defend. And then finally, BCD is expensive. Again, because it takes time away from real problem solving. It takes energy away from something productive, and it costs money. It costs a lot of money. If you work in an organization someplace, you're getting paid a salary. People are paying you money, and they're not paying you money to BCD. And it's expensive. So instead of BCD, how about this? Let's do this, because I get it. Problems exist, and I'm not saying don't talk about problems. I'm saying don't BCD about them. If you come to me and you talk to me about a problem, I want to hear about it. I will never tell you to be quiet. The opposite of BCD isn't silence. Talk about the problem. But here's the thing. Here are two things to do instead of BCD. One is resolution, and two is resilience. Resolution is solving the problem, and resilience is when the problem can't be solved, navigate through it with a good attitude. And that's precisely what we need today in America and around the world: resolution and resilience. And just think about how much better your life would be, and the people around you, if you redirected from BCD into resolution and resilience. Powerful stuff. So get rid of any lingering attachment to the entitled mindset that you shouldn't have to deal with frustrating things or inconvenient things, because you do have to deal with frustrations and irritations and inconveniences. No one is exempt from difficult circumstances. No one is exempt from irritating things. No one. And if you think you're exempt, you're self-centered. You're not exempt. I often say this: you are unique, your problems are not. That's just life, folks. Whatever challenges you're going through, other people have and will go through the exact same challenges. I get it. It doesn't make it less painful, but it puts into perspective. You can't eliminate the pain, but don't make the pain worse by BCDing about it. That's really important. So here's the system that we teach to help people navigate through life. And a lot of you, maybe most of you, or even all of you, have seen this before. And we're going to dive into this a bit. So it's E+R equals O is the system. And it stands for event plus response equals outcome. And producing outcomes isn't about the events or circumstances you experience. Producing outcomes is about how you choose to respond. And E+R O provides a simple framework that can be applied to any situation in life, no matter what, personal, professional, no matter what. Everything in your life, this applies. No matter what situation you face, there's an event you're in, there's an outcome that you want, there's a response that you choose. And then the response that you choose produces an outcome. That's life. That's just how it works. Again, producing outcomes isn't about the event or the circumstance or the situation. Producing outcomes is how you respond to the situation or the circumstances. Whether you know it or not, every day you make tons of R-factor decisions. You're always choosing how to respond because life is a never-ending flow of events. School, work, sports, travel, flying, relationships, home, everything. Life is a never-ending flow of events, and you choose how to respond. You choose what to do or not to do in pursuit of your outcomes. You choose whether to persevere or quit when you meet an obstacle. You choose how to interact with people at work or at home. You are constantly making decisions on how to respond to the stuff of life. And the choice that you make makes all the difference. Your power resides not in the E, not in the O, but in the R. That's where all your power is. Make this statement: how you manage the R is the single most important factor in the quality of your life. I say it again. How you manage the R every day is the single most important factor in the quality of your life. And as you'll see in a minute, if you want the O to improve in your life, there's only one way. That is to choose a better R. Do not wish or wait for a better E. That's a wrong way to live. You're in charge of your R. Don't wish or wait for a better E. And in fact, there's three kinds of events that we all get: helpful events, neutral events, and painful events. That's it. We all get them. All three categories: helpful, neutral, painful. Now, I want helpful events. I love them, but I don't get a ton of them, but I'll take every one of them that I get. And I get a lot of neutral events. And I don't want painful events, but I get them as well. And my point earlier about no one being exempt is just a true statement. So the R factor is a mindset first and a skill set second. I started with that, and now let's get into the details of it. It's a mindset first and a skill set second. And I want you to think about the mindset as we start talking later in a minute about the skill set. So let's talk about the mindset first. Let's dive into it a bit. Now, here it is on the screen, and I've given you this R factor mindset in first person. And the reason it's in first person is I want you to adopt this for yourself on how you think about and look at life. And if you don't think this way, I'd ask you, why don't you think this way, and how do you think? And does it really work? Does it reflect the realities of the kind of a world that we're in? Number one, I don't control events. That's the first R factor mindset. I don't control events happen. Events influence me. I influence them, but I don't control them. And I don't equate, by the way, having to make a difficult choice with not having a choice, which comes up to number two, is my response is my choice. I don't control events. I do control how I choose to respond. That's my choice. That's where my power resides. And I'm not going to allow events to choose for me. They want to. Events try to influence me to make certain choices. I get that, but I'm in charge of my choice. So I don't control events. I do control how I choose to respond. And just because I face a difficult choice doesn't mean I don't have a choice. The number three is I earn outcomes by the quality of my response. Or to put it simply, the O that I get is determined by the R that I choose. If I want a better O, I have to choose a better R. And I think this is really powerful about E+R O as a system. I'll go back for a second. The O is feedback about how well your R is working. If you're not getting the O that you want in some part of your life, personal or professional, then the system is telling you that you're not good enough at managing the R yet. You can be. That's the part about skillful. You can be. You got work to do still. Or you're good enough, but you just haven't found the right response yet. So you got to keep working on how to respond to those circumstances. So again, the O is feedback, but how well your R is working. And just let the system give you that feedback and then respond accordingly. And life is really, I mean, in fact, it's a fun, fulfilling way to go about life. I can tell you, I have chosen a lot of R's in my life. I just didn't get the O that I wanted because it wasn't good enough yet. And I just had more work to do. And that's fun. Working to get better, doing the slow, small daily work to get better, that's what makes life fun and fulfilling. So I don't control events. My response is my choice. I earn outcomes by the quality of my response. If I want a better O, I got to choose a better R. And then finally, E+R O is how life works. My job is to get good at it. People around me may or may not understand or practice the R factor, but I will. And I do understand this, that big outcomes, significant outcomes, take a lot of responses over time. I'll talk about that in a minute. But just because I engage in one R doesn't produce a great outcome. There is no magic R. It's not one response that produces a great outcome. In fact, the amount of work on the R scales with the size of the O that you're pursuing. I'm going to say that again. The amount of work that you have to do in responding scales up with the size of the outcome that you're pursuing or the size of the E that you are trying to deal with. Right now with coronavirus requires a scaled up R. My wife said years ago, little R's don't work for big E's. And so we're facing a big E right now, and we need to match and exceed the size of the E by having our R factor strong enough. I love this statement. We used to say this all the time at Ohio State football. Make your R stronger than any E you face. That's the goal, is make your R stronger than any E you face. That's our objective. Here's the skill set. So I just gave you the mindset. Here are the 6 R factor disciplines. These are the mechanics for responding with intention, purpose, and skill to the outcomes that you're pursuing and the events that you are experiencing. Number 1 is press pause, and the purpose of that is clarity. This is the gateway discipline in the E+R O system. Press pause for clarity. And we'll talk about that in a second. Number 2 is get your mind right. And the purpose here is to create the emotional, mental energy that you need for the situation that you're in. So press pause to clarify the situation, clarify the O, clarify the R that you need, and then get your mind right to create your own energy so you can execute what you need to do. I'll talk about that again in a minute. Number 3, step up. That's take disciplined action. Take disciplined action in pursuit of your outcome and in response to the E that you're in. Make your R meet the demands of the O that you want and the E that you have. Let me say it again. Make sure your R meets the demands. It scales up to meet the demands of the O that you want and the E that you have. So just stop for a second and just think about those 3. Imagine, envision this with me. What if day by day, moment by moment, you acted with clarity, productive energy, and disciplined action? No matter what, whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, a difficult thing, an easy thing. If you sell for a living, you service for a living, you do executable labor for a living, you're a teacher, you're a student, you're an athlete, you're a coach, you're an administrator. What if you acted with clarity, energy, and disciplined action? What would happen in your life? And that's the point of the R factor. And that's why we teach this to you. Number 4 is adjust and adapt, and that's for flexibility. When you execute the R, you're not always going to get the O that you expected or wanted. So monitor the outcome that you get and adjust and adapt accordingly. Be flexible. And like I said a moment ago, it's rare that I ever choose an R that works the way I expected the first time. You have to be great at adjusting and adapting, at flexible. Don't be stubborn. Don't be rigid. Be flexible and agile. That's what number 4 is about. So 1 is clarity, 2 is energy, 3 is action, 4 is flexibility. Number 5, make a difference. Now we shift here a bit. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 is how you manage yourself. Number 5 is how your behavior, your R factor, affects the people around you. We have a simple statement. Your R is an E for others. However you manage the R produces an experience that other people have to deal with. And there's 3 ways that you produce an experience for other people: your attitude, your action, and your words. People feel your attitude, people see your actions, and people hear your words. And if your attitude, action, and words are default, then you're making a negative difference. If your attitude, action, and words are discipline driven and productive, you're making a positive difference. And the point here for number 5 is you're the one who chooses your attitude. You're the one who chooses your action. You're the one who chooses what you say, how you say it, and why, and to whom, and when. And so if you're discipline driven, you're making a very positive difference. And your R is a net positive to your team and the people around you. Number 6 is build skill, which we've talked about already. Do the slow, small, daily work so that your R factor meets the standards for whatever it is you're trying to do. And the really fun thing about life is skill building is never ending. It's continuous learning. It's a passion for growth. It's a desire to get better. And so that's the whole point about R6 is growth. So R1 is pause for clarity. R2 is get your mind right for energy. R3 is step up for action. R4 is adjust and adapt for flexibility. R5 is make a difference for impact. And R6 is build skill for continuous growth. You do that in your life, best version of you. Better today than you were yesterday, better tomorrow than you were today. Adopt this in your school. That's what education is all about. Adopt this in your business. You're going to be successful. Adopt this on your team. You're going to win a whole lot of games. Adopt this in our nation. We navigate more successfully through these challenges and then also take advantage of opportunities. This is the pathway. This is the pathway to the next level for all of us. It's physics of greatness. All right, so let's look at this first R factor discipline. Press pause. And like I said, the purpose of this is for clarity. And here's why. Clarity of vision drives quality of response. That how you respond to situations to a great extent is determined by how you see them. Perception drives action. How you see drives what you do. Vision drives response. And I'm going to add a word here because I want you to see the situations of life with clarity and with courage. Because I've learned this. I don't actually think that reality is that hard to see. I actually think reality is hard to accept. I think I've learned this over many years. I've been doing this for, 35, almost 40 years. And I think for the most part, reality is easy to see. It's just not easy to accept. So let's build vision that has clarity and courage and see the situations of life with a clear mind and a courageous heart. Because as disruptive emotion goes up, clarity goes down. As disruptive emotion, as negative emotion goes up, as undisciplined emotion goes up, clarity goes down. And if we want to be clear, we better get our hands around the whole emotional piece. Folks, sometimes the way you see the problem is the problem. I mean, if you're watching tonight and you've got a phone, take a picture of this, of the screen right now. Because I want you to remember this. Sometimes the way you see the problem is the problem. And I'll go back to this theme. Don't make a problem worse by seeing it in a negative light. Problems are bad enough as they are. Challenges are hard enough as they are. Don't make it worse with a negative vision of it. And we'll unpack that here in a second, okay? So here's what you do. This is the mechanics of what to do when you press pause to gain clarity. It's asking yourself 3 questions using E+R O. So press pause and use this system to gain clarity. And you want to get clarity about 3 things. Number 1, what event do I have? So see the E with clarity and courage. Don't fudge, don't distort, don't spin. See the E for what it is. See the reality of the situation, including realities you don't like, including realities that are scary, including realities that are frustrating. See the E for what it is. See it with clarity and courage. Number 2, make sure you clarify what outcome do you want. That's the second point of clarity. What outcome do you want? And I want to point out, as you look at the screen, I have not chosen the R yet. And this is an R factor law. You are not in a position to choose how to respond until you're clear about the E that you have and the O that you want. A disturbing number of people take action without any clarity about the outcome they actually want. And that's the nature of impulse and autopilot. So make sure you use this system, E+R O, press pause and ask, what E do I have, what O do I want? And then, and only then ask question number 3 is, what response do I need? Given the constraints and realities of the E, given the outcome that I want or I'm responsible for, what are the options for me to take action to pursue that outcome in response to the situation I'm in? And create options. Strategic thinking, you create options. And you weigh out the options and you say, if I engage in that, what outcome am I likely to produce? If I engage in option B, what outcome am I likely to produce or get? And this is really important. Consider consequences before you act, because you will definitely experience consequences after you act. Because choices always have consequences, always. And don't equate the delay of consequences with the absence of them. And that's the power of this system. It allows you to think through any situation using the system of E+R O and the 3 questions: what E do I have, what O do I want, what R do I need? Now, why don't we see situations clearly? Well, it's because of this. That circle represents some situation that you're facing in your life. You could take the coronavirus thing that we've got. You could take some situation that you experience personally, professionally, whatever it would be. Here's the challenge we have. When a situation first pops up, something gets our attention. We don't see the whole situation. We see a part of the situation. Something about it gets our attention. But what gets our attention isn't always what deserves our attention. And that's why there are the 2 boxes. Now, we call that box a focus frame. In other words, you frame the situation a certain way, and you focus on and you give your attention to some element of the situation. And then here's the kicker. You become emotionally attached to your focus frame, which makes it difficult to redirect to what deserves your attention if you're overly attached emotionally to what initially got your attention. And here's an important statement. Just because something gets your attention doesn't mean it deserves it. And one of life's most important skills, in fact, it's a superpower, is the ability to recognize recognize when you're giving your attention to the wrong thing and untether from that thing and redirect your attention to something that actually deserves your attention. And here's a hard thing. A lot of times what gets our attention is negative stuff. It's actually a bias of the human mind called negativity bias. Also, here's something else that gets our attention. Confirmation, confirming evidence. What gets our attention is information or statistics or evidence that we think confirms our opinion or protects our image of ourselves. And we don't look for disconfirming evidence. We don't see clearly stuff that contradicts our perspective. And so we have a tendency to focus on things and build up things that protect our image and that defend our opinion, and not look for, even discount things that don't protect our image. We don't see truth well. That's why if you've ever been around me very long, you've heard me talk about everyone needs a truth teller. Everyone needs a noticer and a truth teller. We need people to help us untether from what gets our attention and refocus on what deserves it. And that's a powerful thing. So again, just because something gets your attention doesn't mean it deserves it. Be skillful at recognizing when what you're giving your attention to isn't what's really important, and redirect it to what really matters. Okay. So let me give you a situation that we can all relate to, and let's press pause and think it through. And I'm going to give a default response and a discipline response. So the event is you're tailgated by an aggressive driver on the highway, driving down their highway, going the speed limit, in the left lane, people in front of you. You can't go faster because people are right there. Traffic is heavy, but driving nicely. You look behind you and someone comes up behind you. They look upset. They're flashing the lights at you. They get right up on your tailgate. And what do you do? Okay. So you're going to make a response decision, and you can respond default or discipline. Well, the default response is get irritated at the person, brake check them, maybe make some hand gesture towards them, yell at them inside your car, And that's a default response. Outcome of that, you're distracted because you're looking back, not forward. You increase stress and you increase risk for yourself and the people around you. That's a default response. And it's very common in America. The Department of Transportation has done research on the behavioral and psychological profile of the average American driver. And most Americans, when they get behind the wheel of a car, do not want to be inconvenienced. So they're kind of self-centered. They're competitive. They don't want to give up their space on the highway, and they get combative, easily irritated. Folks, that's a bad combination. Self-centered and don't want to be inconvenienced, competitive, combative. If you operate from that frame, you're going to get irritated, plump your brakes, gesticulate, yell at a person, and cause a problem. And the thing that I want you to see about what's on the screen is the default outcome, distracted, stressful, risk, that was not created by the tailgater. That was created by the person who reacted on default. So if you brake check somebody, if you get mad when somebody cuts you off on the highway and you get irritated and angry, you're making the situation worse. You don't control the other driver. You have no control over the other driver, but you do control you. And so if you get irritated and mad when you drive, you're making a mistake. So here's an option. Again, same exact situation. Left lane, going speed limit, person aggressive behind you. What if you did this? You press pause, clarified what's around you, signaled, moved over, let him pass. Outcome, you're focused because you're still paying attention ahead of you and around you. You're not looking behind you. You're calm and you get to your destination safely. Low risk, low stress, safe. And that O is produced by that R. The only way to that discipline outcome is a discipline response. And put this in context, just so you get some numbers on this. 40,000 people, roughly, annually, 40,000 people every year are killed in the United States, fatalities, because of bad driving. That's 100 a day, roughly. 100 a day. And not just this year, year after year after year after year. Now, we're working really hard to minimize the number of people that get infected and die because of coronavirus. As of yet, it hasn't reached 40,000 a year. And I'm telling you, whatever we do with coronavirus, next year in the United States on the highway, default driver is going to kill 40,000 people. That's not good. So we need to stop the default stuff, not just on the highway, but every place. So I'll give you another event, the one we're in right now, confronted by an unexpected disruptive change. Default response, BCD, avoid the productive discomfort that comes with this change, resist the changes you need to make. Outcome that default R produces is the change is more difficult and it's more stressful. It takes longer to solve it. In this instance, it's a problem that continues to exist. We lengthen, extend the problem because we don't make the changes we need to make. Or if it's a change at work, the change happens, but you make it more difficult and stressful on yourself. So none of that is effective. Not a good way to go. That's default. You have an option. You could be discipline driven in how you respond to disruptive change. Here you go. Embrace the discomfort. You don't have to like it, but embrace it. Recognize that change isn't comfortable, but it's often necessary. And then do the work that the change requires and adjust and adapt. That's a discipline response. Outcome from that, you build new skills, new habits, you gain a competitive advantage, and you build a bridge to the future. And when the next change comes, you're able to deal with it more effectively, with a more resilience. It's just, folks, this is mental health 101. And I look at the bottom band, the default BCD of resisting the change. That's not mentally healthy. But that's a choice some people make. And that's why we're doing this webinar for you tonight, is to show you there's an alternative, to respond with discipline to the changes that are happening in the world around us. And again, we'll navigate coronavirus. I don't know what the final outcome will be, but we'll get through this. And then something else will happen. Another change will come. And we better be ready. One last thing about pause before I move on to get your mind right. The pause isn't singular. The pause is three-dimensional. There are three pause points, not just one. There's a proactive pause, there's a situational pause, and there's a reflective pause. Let me just give you each one of them. So the proactive pause is before you go into a situation. This is prior to an event happening. So before you get in your car, remember the purpose of pause is clarity. So this is press pause before and gain clarity in anticipation. This is anticipate. What kind of events do you expect to get when you drive? Anticipate, be clear. Before you walk into the office, what kind of events do you expect when you walk into the office, in the classroom, in the building, go to the job site, onto the football field, the pool, the mat, the court? What before you walk into your house at night, anticipate the events that you know you're going to get. Now, here's the thing. It's really interesting. Most, not all, but most of the events that you get in your life are predictable and they recur. Let me say that again. Think this through. Think about the implications of this. This is where I wish there were 300 million people on this webcast tonight, because we all need to hear this. Most of the events in your life are predictable and recurring. They have happened, they are happening, and they will happen. You shouldn't be surprised when they happen. You should be prepared. In fact, I'm going to be very bold tonight. If you are surprised by a predictable recurring E, you're an amateur at your own life. I'm going to say it again. If you are surprised by an E, an event, a situation that keeps happening in your life over and over and over again, and every time it happens, you're surprised and you're not ready for it, you're not prepared for it, you are an amateur at your life. And I don't want you to be an amateur at your life. I want you to be a pro at your life. And so press pause proactively. Anticipate the events you're going to get and pre-plan your R. Preload your response. And don't be surprised, be prepared. And then now you're in the situation. You're driving your car, you're in the building, you're on the field, you're in the pool, you're on the mat, you're in the court, you're on the job site, you're in the school, you're in the classroom, you're at home with your loved ones. And the E's that you anticipated, they're happening. You know what to do now. You're clear. And you can pause quickly, clarify what you need to do, and execute the R that you had pre-planned. And when an unexpected event happens, frankly, you have a lot of mental shelf space to be able to press pause a bit longer, clarify that, oh, that was unexpected. Okay, well, what would work best here? What's the best way to move forward here? You can think it through and execute with intention, purpose, and skill. And then the third pause point is after the outcome. An E has happened, you've chosen a response, and an outcome has been produced by how you chose to respond. This is reflective. Look back and gain clarity. And I really encourage you to think about this at the end of the day and look back on your day. What events happened? What responses did you choose? What outcomes did you produce? Look back on your week. What events happened? What responses did you choose? What outcomes did you produce? I mean, football teams, this is game film. You're looking back on a game you just played and you're studying film. What happened? What did we do? What outcomes did we produce? What did we learn? That's the purpose of reflective pause, is learning. And notice, if you engage in a reflective pause, it actually enhances the proactive pause to anticipate what you're going to do the next time those events happen. So ask yourself 3 questions when you ask the reflective pause. And that is, what did I learn about myself in situations like that? And here are the 3 questions. What do I want to repeat? What do I want to enhance? And what do I want to eliminate? What did I do that worked well, so I want to repeat it? What did I do that worked okay, but it can be better, so I want to enhance it? And what did I do that didn't work and I don't want to do it again? I want to eliminate it. And I think journaling is a fantastic way to do this. Journal at the end of the day, for sure at the end of the week, Friday afternoon, evening, if you will, or maybe early Saturday morning, maybe sometime on Sunday as a reflective time. But I really encourage you to begin using all 3 pauses so you can anticipate, respond in the midst of, and look back and reflect on things that have happened and get better at your life. All right, number 2, R factor discipline, is get your mind right. Purpose of pause was clarity. Purpose of get your mind right is energy. And your mindset is a primary driver of what you do and how well you do it. And if you're going to execute effectively, personally and professionally, you need to be in the right kind of a mindset. And your mind either puts up barriers that hold you back, or it builds bridges that move you forward. What a wonderful statement. Take a picture of this one with your phone. Write this down if you don't have your phone. This is something I want you to remember the rest of your life. Your mind either puts up barriers, it creates barriers that hold you back, or your mind builds bridges that move you forward. And if you have a heartbeat, you know what's on that screen is true because you've experienced it. I have. I've created barriers inside myself, self-inflicted barriers. I've also built bridges in my life that move me forward. I've empowered myself and I've weakened myself. I've had a disciplined mind. I've had a default mind. We've all done it. But the point here is that there's mental activity going on inside of you. And this is all about owning the mental activity so that you are building bridges to move you forward rather than creating barriers that hold you back. Bottom line, don't believe everything you think. Just because it's in your head doesn't mean it deserves to be in your head. Everybody on this call right now, everybody on this webcast, there's certain things that you think and believe you probably need to jettison. I don't know what they are. And it's not my role. I just know this. Don't believe everything you think. They have mindset patterns that all of us have we need to think through and get rid of. And this is great. Let me just share with you some thoughts about this. Here's some examples of some barriers and here's some bridges. Mental barriers, mental bridges. Here you go. Mental barrier, BCD. We've talked about that. Clearly a mental barrier. Holds you back. The extent you do it, you're ineffective. Number two, negativity. If you're overly negative, it's a barrier. If you allow your mind to run negative, you're creating a barrier that holds you back. Self-centeredness, we talked about that. If you're arrogant and self-centered, you are not an effective person. Number four is resentment, jealousy, maybe lack of forgiveness. Again, toxic, negative, doesn't work. It's a barrier that holds you back. Excuses, giving up. You're trying to do something, you should have done something, you didn't do what you should have done, you make an excuse. Rather than own it, you make an excuse. Doesn't work. Holds you back, makes you less effective, makes you non-competitive. Also makes you annoying, by the way. And then victim mentality. Oh, well, it was me. It was the E. It wasn't, I was a victim. I had to do this. I couldn't. No, that doesn't work. So those are barriers. Those others. Those are things that we create in our minds that hold us back. Now, here's a bridge. Here's a mindset that moves us forward. And again, if you've been around me, you've heard me talk about this. I think this is a really effective way to go about life. In the morning, before you go into your place of work, before you go into your place of education, if you're an athlete, before you go into practice, before you go into school, again, before the job site, before the office, before the school, before the classroom, say this to yourself. This is a bridge, a mindset bridge, a mental bridge. Today I get to, not have to, but today I get to. Number one, work with purpose. Number two, serve people. Number three, solve problems. And number four, bring energy. I get to do those four things. I get to work with purpose, serve people, solve problems, and bring energy. Wow, what a great day I'm going to have. And then I go do that. That's who I do that. Be that person. Do that work. And I think about the opposite of that. What if you weren't purposeful in your work? What if you didn't want to serve people, that the people just annoyed you? What if you didn't want to solve problems, just complain about them? And what if you were a negative energy person? What if you're an energy vampire? So bridges on the left are barriers on the left, bridges on the right. And here's another exercise that you can do if you're a teacher, a leader, a coach, and that is just put barriers and bridges up on the whiteboard or a flip chart and have your team, have your work unit, have your classroom talk about barriers, mental barriers that team allows to exist, that team creates mentally. And we all have them because it's not just individual, it can be collective. And then what bridges need to be built? What are the mental bridges that we need, the mindset we have to move us forward? Because our mind either creates barriers that hold us back or builds bridges that move us forward. Basically, it's this: where your mind goes, you go. That's it. Where your mind goes, you go. And that's why we say get your mind right. So create the mindset required for the action that you need. That's the ultimate skill we're after here. Create. Look at that word. Create the mindset required, because it won't happen on its own. An effective mindset isn't automatic. It's created. It's discipline, right? It's learned. It's something you've got to make happen inside of you. And here's how you do it. Here's the mindset cycle. When you're pursuing an outcome or you're responding to an event or situation, here's what your mind does. Here's the mindset cycle. Number one is you focus on something. That's step number one. Now, we just talked about this. And sometimes you give your attention to the wrong thing. Other times you give your attention to the right thing. The point is you choose what to focus on. You choose what to give your attention to. If you choose a negative focus, then that has negative consequences. You choose a positive, productive focus, that has positive, productive consequences. But you are the chooser. You're the decision maker on what you pay attention to. That's step number one in the cycle. Number two is self-talk. Once you've chosen to give your attention to something and focus on something, to frame things a certain way, you talk to yourself and tell yourself a story about what you're looking at. And the self-talk flows from the focus. If your focus is negative, your self-talk will be negative. If your focus is positive and productive, the self-talk will be positive and productive. You choose. And then focus and self-talk flow to create feeling. And feeling is the physical and psychological energy that you feel as a result of your focus and your self-talk. Now, let me make sure you got what I just said. Your feeling doesn't come exclusively from the event. Your feeling comes from your focus and self-talk about the event. Really important. And that means this: if you want to change how you feel, you have to change your focus and your self-talk. You are the author of the stories that feed your emotions. You are the author of the focus frame that feeds how you feel. If you want to change how you feel, you have to change your focus and your self-talk. That's just the way the mind works. And then feeling drives action, which reinforces how you see the situation and thus the cycle. And that cycle works for you or against you. Either you manage that cycle or that cycle manages you. And let me say that the tremendous skill here, hard one, this isn't easy, but it's really necessary, is self-awareness. Be aware of the mindset cycle happening within you. In fact, it's a matter of situational awareness and self-awareness. Be aware of the situation you're in and be aware of how you're framing it and what the mindset cycle is doing. What are you focused on? What are you saying to yourself? How you're feeling and what your emotions want you to do. You can call that a lot of things: mindfulness, emotional intelligence, mental toughness. Some psychologists call it metacognition, the ability to step away from yourself and observe yourself. But be aware of this happening within you. What are you giving your attention to? What are you saying to yourself? How are you feeling? And what your feelings want you to do? And is it a mindset that you want to be in? If not, press pause, redirect your focus, replace the negative self-talk with positive, feed the emotions that you need, and always take productive action. That's a key. So when default emotion hijacks the cycle, it distorts what you see, it disrupts how you feel, and it limits what you do. Let me say it again, and I'll go back and show you the cycle again. When default emotion hijacks the cycle that I just showed you, I'll go back. It distorts what you see. It distorts your focus. It creates negative self-talk, and then it creates disruptive emotion, and then you don't do the right thing. The effective thing is not in your focus frame. So again, when default emotion hijacks the cycle, it distorts what you see, it disrupts how you feel, and it limits what you do, which is why you got to own that cycle. Again, the emotions you feed will grow. And if you want to be effective in your action, you got to be effective in focus, self-talk, and feelings. Now, that voice inside your head, that self-talk, really powerful. Really powerful. It's a powerful force. Please take ownership of your self-talk. Please take ownership of the stories you tell yourself. The default voice is not the same as the disciplined voice. And that's it. That's the battle. And which voice do you listen to? The default voice is negative and disruptive to you. The disciplined voice is positive and productive. The default voice, BCD. Disciplined voice, solve. The default voice looks for problems. The disciplined voice looks for solutions. The default voice gossips about people. The disciplined voice talks to people. The default voice is a barrier that holds you back. Disciplined voice is a bridge that moves you forward. Negative energy, default voice. Positive energy, disciplined voice. You choose. So one more time, the voice in your head is a powerful force. Please take ownership of it. And remember, the default voice is quick, careless, and convincing. It's quick, it happens fast, sometimes before you're even aware of it. It's careless, it doesn't really care about your success. In fact, it wants to dominate you and isn't concerned with your success. And it's very convincing. It's persuasive, downright seductive sometimes. And I'll go back for a second. Some people have allowed that default voice to run unchallenged and unchecked in their life for years. And in fact, the default voice is usually triggered by somebody or something in their life that they don't like. That thing pops up or that person shows up and boom, negative voice. Oof, got to press pause and get your mind right on that one. Cannot let that continue to happen in your life. Very counterproductive. Be careful what you say to others. Be even more careful what you say to yourself, please. All right, we're going to finish with this. This is default mindset, disciplined mindset in response to disruptive change. A default mindset, disciplined mindset in response to disruptive change. I've already preloaded the action. So you notice focus, self-talk, feeling, action, the 4 columns. And I'm going to go with default mindset first. And look at the action produced by the default mindset is BCD, avoiding discomfort, clinging to the old way, and resisting the change. Now, what emotional state, default emotional feelings drive that action? Well, things like negative energy, resentment, anxiety and anger, cynicism, stress, low motivation. Those are all negative emotional things, okay, that drive disruptive action. The self-talk that I engage in that produces and feeds that negative feeling, things like when the change happens, this is ridiculous, it won't work, oh my gosh, this is awful, they don't know what they're doing, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't do this. Negative self-talk feeds negative feelings, which energizes less than effective action. And the focus, the default focus is I'm focused on the past and the way things used to be. The comfort zone that I wish I still had and want to stay in. What I don't like about the change, I fixate on the threat rather than see the opportunity, and I focus on things that I can't control. That focus produces that self-talk, which drives that feeling, which energizes ineffective action. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Now, press pause, gain clarity, get your mind right, recognize the cycle happening within you, and then get your mind right with regard to productive feeling, productive self-talk, productive focus. Here you go. So action I want to take in response to disruptive change. I want to gain clarity about the change. I want to embrace the discomfort that comes with it with a great attitude. I want to do the work and I want to adjust and adapt. Can't change the fact that change is happening. I can't change the change, but I can change me. Say that again. I can't change the change, but I can change me. So that's the action I need to take. Here's the emotional state I want to be in. Positive energy, sense of ownership, want to be motivated, resilient, purposeful, confident, right? And then the self-talk that I need to engage in to feed that emotion would be, hey, this is difficult and uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Change produces growth. I want to grow here. I want to do this work. I can do this. It's going to be hard, but I can do it. How can I help other people do this also? That's all empowering self-talk. That's positive energy self-talk. That's a self-talk that drives the emotion, that drives the action I need to take in response to disruptive change. And then the focus is the future, necessity and opportunity. I'm not going to look behind me and try to hold on to the past. I'm going to look ahead of me and create I want to create a bridge to the future. And I see what's going on. What's necessary here? What opportunities are in the midst of all this? What needs to be done here? And then what are things that I can control? Because I'm not going to give my energy and my focus to things that I cannot control. So that's in front of you right there. Default mindset in response to disruptive change, disciplined mindset in response to disruptive change. I'll leave it up just for another second or two so that if you want to take a picture of this with your phone, you can. And we use this exercise for all kinds of events and situations in organizations and teams and classrooms. Okay, finishing up then, and just repeat this. Your mind either puts up barriers that hold you back or builds bridges that move you forward. It's a repeat. It's worthy of a repeat. It's so important. I want you to be a bridge builder, not a barrier creator. And that's a mental decision, a mental discipline that you engage in your own life. Where your mind goes, you go, which is why we have to get our mind right. So E+R O is a journey. My motivation is to introduce you to it tonight, if you're new to this, or to reinforce it if you've been through this before, so that you use E+R O day after day in your journey through life. Here's how you can stay in touch with us. Our website you can see is focus3.com. And then that's my Twitter feed at Timothy Kight, K-I-G-H-T. It's also LinkedIn, how you can get a hold of me. We're going to be producing and offering the full R Factor training through virtual training, which is an online course. We're seriously updating that. A little bit of it you've actually seen tonight, but it's going to be some really cool stuff. I think you'll love it. Stay tuned on that. We'll be releasing here in about a month or so. But thanks again, everyone, for tuning in tonight, wherever you are and however you're joined us. Really glad that you're part of this. Please follow us on social media and on our website. And let's really get through this coronavirus thing together. Let's do this with intention, purpose, and skill, and let's respond with discipline. Thanks, everybody.